Well, about 2:45, we saw a guy running from the cops here, right at the intersection of North and Pennsylvania, where which has been the epicenter of the unrest here. And as he was running away, that officer drew his weapon and fired and struck the individual who was running away. He was a young black male, and what we saw on the sidewalk as the crime scene unfolded there was a revolver laying on the ground. It looked like a six-shooter revolver with a long barrel. The individual who was shot, again, a young black male, he was alive. They just took him off in the ambulance, but he did not look to be in good shape at all. I can't really give you an accurate diagnosis, and I could not get a look at his wound.
Not being able to deliver an accurate diagnosis, which would have been almost impossible because the individual speaking is not a medical professional, nor as far as we know has ever been in a triage situation, save for seeking out the right flesh-tone Band-Aid after a knee scraping playing kickball. This reporter, a person charged with delivering first and foremost the facts of every story, certainly saw something and then immediately got to his control room, talked out some of the particulars, and then after the producer was convinced what he or she was being told was accurate, after all, they're supposed to trust their people on the ground who seek out fact, they ran with it, aired it, and were dead sure they were right on top of another instance where the overused, overhyped, overdribbled phrase breaking news and the accompanying flashy graphic with neato sound effect could be used and then meet the quota of using it at least one every 16 minutes or so. Well, this story had one thing going for it, completely inaccurate without a single shred of proof or fact. Not one word in this breathless narrative about alleged or we don't have all the facts or even we need to check with police to ensure we're getting it right before we become the focal point of maybe a new riot in Baltimore. Nope, not a sausage. And while the network later did the correct thing and issued an on-air apology, the fact remains. We are living, breathing, and existing in the most dangerous of eras known to modern man.
Chances are that at some point in your life, you've had a doctor pull out a rubber mallet and whack you on the knee. Your leg will have kicked forwards in response without you asking it to. What causes this proverbial knee-jerk reaction? Well, to make a long story short, what's going on is that your body thinks that your leg is suddenly moving backwards. And so to correct for this, it sends signals which cause your leg to push forward.
Here we are every day being whacked on the noggin with danger, fear, paranoia, hate, screaming memes, little blue meanies, sometimes properly delivered with a hefty dose of common sense and even perhaps, what a shocker, fact and reasoning behind it in order to ensure panic does not ensue. Yeah, I know, fascinating, interesting concept. But the knee-jerk has become the norm in America at the moment. When that story flashed across screens in our own newsroom, there was an immediate sense of dread and foreboding from some accompanied by a smidgen of rush to judgment and the instantaneous dissection of every possible nuance of the story, most of them leading to riots, burning, fears, shootings, looting, and anything else that makes for good video. However, once we allow ourselves to dip for that low-hanging, non-intellectual fruit, we are becoming a larger part of the problem than we might wish to admit. We become not the knee-jerker, but the lemmings that have been conditioned to snap to illogical attention at the mere whiff of something that far too often speaks to our fears and thus forces us to make irrational and sometimes hasty decisions.
Authorities in Texas spent the day combing the scene for evidence. No explosives were found inside the vehicle, only luggage. One of the gunmen, identified by a federal law enforcement source as Elton Simpson, tweeted his allegiance to ISIS ahead of the attack. He also linked himself to a known British ISIS fighter. Sources tell CNN authorities believe Simpson shared an apartment in Phoenix, Arizona with a second gunman, Nadir Sufi.
Let's dispense with the idiotic, useless, and mindless knee-jerk. Let's go with the facts gusto, okay? ISIS is a threat. They are killers, mostly with the intelligence level of Rayon, and ready to kill anybody, anywhere, but just because the chuckleheads who claim to be in charge of ISIS take responsibility doesn't mean they had anything to do with this attack or any other. It's easy to say you did it without proof, and just because these now dead jackhammers claim they were working for ISIS and tossed out the praise to Allah card, it means zero. We're on our heels. We must remain vigilant every second in order to keep our country and our families safe. But we must rely at all times on fact and reasoning, and only things that will separate us from the festering bottom feeders of life. Hey, terror comes in many disguises. Panic, knee-jerk are two of them. If we are to survive as a society, we must not be so willing to put on those masks and dance like the puppets this diseased vermin wants us to emulate. That is my opinion, telling it like it is. You want to send me a note, go ahead and do it via social media, and you can tell us what you think about this and so many other issues we discuss right here. You don't see it, but you hear it. Rock on, true believers. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow right back here on The Hard Line.